Hello, folks. How are you? Last session of the day. Woo! Let's do it. The last session of the day. I'm the guy between you and a big party and lots of drinks and food. So I'll try to make it fun. And the way we'll do it is lots of demos. Less talking, more showing. And we've got a bunch of cool demos to talk to you about Data Canvas. How many of you have already heard about Data Canvas? Show of hands. All right, something's working in the keynote. That's good. All right, so to talk about Data Canvas, it'll be me. I'm the product management lead for BigQuery Data Canvas. Previously, I used to run BigQuery ML. I assume some of you have tried that product. Joining me is Mike Romano here, who's the engineering lead, who's been my partner in crime, along with many others, to build Data Canvas. We also have two great, amazing customers who've participated with us to help shape Data Canvas. One company, Wunderkind, is going to join us virtually. Scott and Rachel have recorded a video and a demo. And then we have Tim from Vio, who'll join us live right here. So we'll do a quick summary of what is Data Canvas, why does it exist, and jump into a demo that Mike does the demo, the two customer talks, and hopefully we'll have some time to take Q&A. And we'll be around. It's the last session, so we can even take questions at the end of the session if there are any. So going from data to insights has many challenges today. If you think about insights, right? Back in the day when analytics started, hey, you got data from a transaction system, and you want to bring that to get some insights out of it, you just pull the data in and you're done. But over the decades, the sophistication of this value chain from data to insights has just blown up a lot. So you have to ingest the data, you have to transform the data, prep the data, analyze it, visualize it, share it, collaborate it, iterate. All those steps have specific tools that have to be used. And oftentimes, these tools require specialists that need to do them. So you get caught up in those tools sometimes these days because there are so many great tools to do each step of the value chain. Data is only growing. And as data is growing, finding the right data set becomes a challenge. For large teams, or even for small teams, finding the right table, finding the right data set is very critical. Because otherwise, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you got the wrong table, not the right lineage, you're going to get the wrong results. But how do you find the right table? Turn around and ask your buddy? Well, that's not really scalable, right? So you have products, there are data catalogs out there, but they are different tools. You have to go find them. What if you could do that in the place where you want to start to do the analytics? And this is my pet peeve. I love Google Docs, and Google Docs has this amazing collaboration capability. You can just go and comment in there. And trust me, at Google, we save a ton of meetings just because you can just comment it over there, discuss it, and we're done. We don't need a meeting for that. But when it comes to analytics products, usually you'll finish your work, copy-paste that code in somewhere and say, hey, check it out, or take that screenshot and put it in Slack or Chat or Teams, and you're lost, right? No collaboration, really, not native. And finally, because of the sophistication of the tools and the technologies, you often need to rely on folks who have advanced skills, SQL proficiency, Python, and other languages. And what does that result in? It results in toil. It takes a lot more work for these people who get to do the data to insights work. It's tiring. It's not fun. And also, it's obviously more cost when you're spending more time. But the real pain is that those insights are delayed. You wanted business decisions that have been made in time, promptly. And those get delayed. That's not fun. And the worst of all is you go to an analyst and say, hey, I need this project to be done. And they say, not possible. I'm swamped. So you never get the chance to do so much work, get so many good insights that might be possible. And this is not just us imagining these problems. Last summer, we went out and said, hey, look, there is this Gen AI craze, but it's a hammer. Let's find the nail. What's the pain point? What can we do? What problems can we solve for the customers? And so when we spoke to a large customer, a large retailer, they have hundreds of merchants setting prices on thousands of products every day, every few days. And who do they turn around to get the data they need, the analytics they need, to make those important decisions? They go to the analysts. And so this retailer's head of analytics tells us, look, my biggest pain point is analyst time. Can you cut down that time so they can do more? And this is not just a big company problem. There is this automotive data startup Now, they have the opposite end of the problem. They don't have that many skills. They're a small team. What they do is they go to automotive websites, collect inventory, pricing information, collate all that, and create a lovely data set that they then sell it out to hedge funds and auto companies and so on. But they can only do 3 or 4 projects a year. They would like to do more, bring more value to their customers, because they know it in their head they can do, but they don't have all the pieces in a place in a way that they can do it efficiently. And it's not just small and business. Even there's a medium-sized bank that says that data engineering, we hold all projects ransom. Until we are done, nothing happens. So customers are really calling out, hey, look, we need simplicity in our products. To solve this, today we are introducing BigQuery Data Canvas. What is BigQuery Data Canvas? It's a reimagined, NL-driven experience for data professionals, for data analysts, data engineers, ML engineers, analytics engineers, so many titles, but people who are in the value chain of taking data from one point and generating that insight that a business can work on. And what is Data Canvas? It is built on 2 pillars of innovation. One is UX innovations, and the other one is AI innovation. So it's not all about, let's apply Gen AI for every problem. I think Gen AI can do a lot of things, but it's not a panacea, right? We need to think about the problem and work backwards, and that's what we've done in Data Canvas. So the first thing we did is, hey, look, let's reimagine how the user experiences. And we are introducing a completely new experience, a Canvas experience, which maps to the analyst's mental model. Because typically, if you get a query come in for ad hoc analysis, you'll be touching a few tables, you'll be transforming some data, you'll be bringing them together, and then you'll generate some insight, and then you'll share out, collaborate, and so on. A Canvas is a great user experience interface for that. And think of it like Figma for data analytics. And the best part, it is right inside BigQuery Studio, so you're not having to go to yet another product. It's BigQuery Studio, went GA earlier this week, and this is a feature and builds on the vision of Studio, that you have one place where you can work on all of your data. And finally, collaboration. We needed to be there. The version that we're launching now in preview has a bunch of collaboration. You can share your data canvases, but we have a big vision for how we can collaborate using data canvases. On the AI side, we have 4 innovations right off the bat. Number 1, you can find your data powered by context-based retrieval, okay? And it starts by integrating with Dataplex Data Catalog, and over the fullness of time, we'll have a lot more capability here where you don't have to do a lot of real stitching together carefully data catalog work. Hopefully, with light data catalog work, you should be able to get the data set that you want, but not by going to the data catalog, but right inside Data Canvas. And the second one, which is a big one for many, many folks, is generating SQL using NL. We have some of the best benchmarks and data sets that we've been using to generate so far what is, we think, the industry best NL to SQL results. We have a lot of innovation happening in this area. What you'll see right now, it gives you NL to SQL for a whole bunch of base cases and gets better over time. And here's the best part about Data Canvas. It is designed for the human to be in the loop. So you use the NL, get the SQL, review it, go back and update the NL, or go back and update the SQL. So you are confident that when you're running that SQL, you've seen it, you have some SQL expertise, and you know that SQL you're running. It's not just NL doing its magic, and you don't know if you can trust the result. So that's been a big part of Data Canvas's design, that how do we find the balance between what AI can do today and what humans need to trust these systems. So that's what NL to SQL does. The other feature is being able to generate charts with natural language. You generated a bar chart, but now you want to sort it, you want to change the colors, you can do that right inside the canvas. You don't have to go out to another tool. If you want, you can do it. That's also part of the capability, but you can generate the charts and the visualizations right there. And the last one is one of my favorite features. How many times have you stared at a big result set and said, what are the key takeaways from this? So, well, with this AI feature, automatically generates a bunch of insights for you. Hey, these are the 4 takeaways for you. Just copy, paste these bullet points, use it wherever you want. But that's all talk, so let's see it in action. So please welcome Mike.
Thanks, sir. All right, the spinning GIF is also brought to you by Gemini. Not really, it's just a phone app. But so why? Why Data Canvas? So analysts already have all the tools they need, right? We have intelligent AI assistants in the BigQuery SQL editor. Dataplex Data Catalog lets people search for assets within their org and outside of it. And Lightweight Viz and Looker Studio allow us to visualize that data and share it with our customers. So why Data Canvas? So let's look at an ad hoc analysis use case. DataBeans is a multinational company. DataBeans is a multinational company that sells coffee beans worldwide. And the VP of sales at DataBeans wants to use historical sales data. These are some of the questions that they might ask. I'm an analyst at that company, and I'm familiar with BigQuery and Looker Studio. So let's look at what a typical workflow might look like for me. So first, I need to find the data. And I use Data Catalog for that. I find 3 tables, and then I start to write a query to join that data. Now, I'm not the best SQL developer, and I haven't committed all the date functions to memory, so I'm making frequent context switches to jump over to Stack Overflow and to look at documentation to figure out how to extract month from a timestamp. Once I get that data joined, I'm going to write a follow-on query here so that I can get the average daily sales across all of our products. I'm going to use BigQuery Lightweight Viz to preview those results. And once I'm ready, I'm going to export that to Looker Studio, where I can customize the visualization. I can add colors and titles, and move on to the next query, where I do much of the same thing again. So I'm reading from cached results sets here. That's a pretty common practice here. It helps me iterate a bit faster. But there's no good way to do that in our UI today. I have to kind of find the temp table. I have to copy it over. I have to write the SQL statement there. When I'm done with that final query, I'm again going to export to Looker Studio. This is another report that I'm going to be able to share. I'm going to customize it. And then I'm going to share all those assets with my teammates. And so that ends up being 2 queries and 2 visualizations. So 4 assets in total. So all in all, it took me 45 minutes. This was actually me, so I'm sure many of you could do it better. So what's wrong with that? Actually, that's not too bad. I bootstrapped a project in 45 minutes. Now I've enabled my team to start working on this. We can kind of distribute the work and move on. But during that, we hit on a couple things. Navigation to multiple applications. I had to jump over to Stack Overflow, over to documentation. I had to go to Looker Studio. Costly context switches, disjointed artifacts. There's no good way to bundle those together and share them. And it really doesn't map to the analyst mental model either. So let's see what that would look like in Data Canvas. Demo time. There we go. So you have to excuse the Rube Goldberg machine we have here as a way to share the screen. But this is BigQuery today that we all know. I'm going to go ahead and create a data canvas and go through that exact flow. Now, the first thing I have to do is find data. And you can see here that I have a nice splash page with a bunch of recently used tables. I have recent queries there as well. That's a great way to get started. But I'm actually going to use natural language, and I'm going to write a search and just tell it to find the data about coffee bean sales. And what that does behind the hood is it has Gemini convert my natural language query into a data catalog search syntax. When the results come back, we actually semantically re-rank them and filter them to bring the most relevant to the top. So I'm going to grab those same 3 tables that I did in the previous example, and I'm going to hit query. And you can see that it added all 3 of those tables to Canvas in one place. And I'm able to view the details and the schema and compare the tables side by side. And what I've essentially done is selected and confirmed my data context. So there's no ambiguity, right? Keeping the human in the loop. That's going to be the theme throughout. So I'm going to start my query, and to do that, I'm going to paste. Normally, I would type, but you don't want to see me type. It's almost as slow as my data analysis. So I'm going to ask to find the daily sales and quantity for each menu item in order by total sales. That's going to hit Gemini with that data context we provided. It's going to generate the SQL for me. And I skipped all those steps of jumping over to Stack Overflow to find the extract function that I needed. And I've already saved a bunch of time. So now I kind of have the initial result set here with the tables joined. And I want to kind of like follow on to that query. I'm going to go ahead and just hit query these results. And you can see it's kind of created a new BigQuery editor for me. And it's put a temp table in there. This is the part in that video that I had to do all manually. I'm going to add another prompt, and I'm going to ask it to calculate the average daily sales for each item. And once that's generated, I'm going to run it again. I'm going to go full screen here. Great. And so BigQuery makes it easy to build your query, or Data Canvas makes it easy to build your query in a modular fashion. Whereas before I had the fragmented experience where I had to jump across tabs to kind of compose a query. Ultimately, I would probably end up like pasting it all together with a bunch of with clauses, saving it, and then sharing that as an artifact. So continuing on with this, I'm going to ask it to show me the top 10 items by sales, and I want it to round sales to 2 decimals. I'm prepping this for visualization, essentially. So I want to get some nice formatted data. I'm going to go ahead and run. And that looks right. I'm going to zoom in so y'all can see. And the next step, I just want to visualize this. So I'll click Visualize, and I have a number of options to select from here. I'm going to go ahead and click Create Customized Visualization. That'll allow me to provide an NL prompt. I'm going to prompt it to create a bar chart using a light coffee color, which seems appropriate, and to order it descending. And there you go. And you can note that it also added a couple text insights for me, derived from this chart data to help me kind of like parse what I'm looking at. Now, data analysis, I mean, we have a pretty good start here, but data analysis is often not linear, right? And our exploration can kind of branch off in many directions. So I'm looking at this chart here, and I'm seeing Brouhaha Bonanza, maybe the most unfortunate name ever, is number 1. So I want to see kind of what makes that tick. I want to dive into those numbers a little bit more. I'm going to start a new thread here. I'm going to jump up to the top where I had that join data to begin with. And I'm going to hit query again, and that's actually going to spawn a new branch. So in there, I'm actually going to ask it to, 1 second. One second here. Going off script. I lost a prompt. Here we go. Nope, not there. OK. I'm going to just go off script here, and I'm going to just type things in there, and we're going to see what we get, guys. Obviously, I was working off of stuff that I had tested before, but now you're going to see the real deal. So here we go. And actually, this is what it's all about, though. I can stand up here and I can show you that like every time I type in a prompt, it generates the thing I want, and then I can run it and I have the results. But we all know, we've all worked with Gen AI, and that's just not the way that it works yet. right? We're moving in that direction, but it doesn't work that way yet. And I think one of the most powerful features of Data Canvas is that we build it around this premise of keeping the human in the loop, right? We're all professionals. There's many a data professional out there. We know what we're doing. So not only do we want to have confidence that the thing that we're building does what we intended it to do, right? We also want to kind of build upon what it gives us. So if it can get us 80% there, right, and save us all that kind of scaffolding of joining tables, and then we just kind of have to fill in the rest, that's already a huge win and a huge time saver. So let's see here. I essentially want to go ahead and join this data, or aggregate this data by month. So I'll say group this data by month and item name. Whew. You feel me? Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and click Run. And there you go. OK, so I can see Brouhaha Bonanza at the top. I'm going to go ahead and query these results. This actually brings me right back to where I wanted to be. And I'm going to show the monthly sales for Brouhaha Bonanza, and I'm going to round that sales to 2 decimals. That looks good. We got those. And again, lastly, I'm going to visualize that. I'm going to use a line graph here so I can see how those sales kind of like change month to month. Maybe you see a pattern in it or not. Great. OK, so this is the exact thing that I ended up with in that kind of like time-lapse video that we watched that took 45 minutes. And we even went off script a little bit, so we kind of had a detour. But we've done this in, what, 5, 6 minutes, maybe? Somebody time check me. And I have one artifact that I can share, right? And it has kind of like my entire thought process there, the way I got there. It's not some disparate collection of scripts, right? And it's a solid foundation for a data project. So I've already gone over time. That concludes my demo. And I want to introduce to you again Abhinav.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Well, that's super cool. So our vision is much bigger than the first step you're seeing here. Our vision is to be able to empower all data professionals. Data professionals is the umbrella term, data analysts, data engineers, ML engineers, anybody who needs to work with data to get to that next step, to work collaboratively, which is a critical part of projects these days, always, but make it part of the product design. So you can go from data to insights quickly, fast, and leveraging LLMs along the way to remove the toil. And who is it best for? I've already said this. And you may ask, when should I use this? What are the most popular use cases? So we have done a great number of usability studies and got a lot of great feedback. And we've seen where users are getting the biggest bang for the buck right away is with ad hoc analysis. The demo that Mike showed, if it's happening in your real life, go use it. It's going to give you great results because, you want to get that thing from point A to point B quickly. Ad hoc analysis, a great use case. Another one is data exploration, looking for data sets, making some minor changes, comparing them, so on and so forth. And finally, projects that require collaboration. So we've been working with 2 amazing customer partners as we built this product, and we've got a ton of feedback. And Wunderkind is a performance marketing company that has been using this for several months now and are seeing a lot of benefit from this. And let's hear it from them. To talk about it is Scott and Rachel on a video.
Hey everybody, you have the Wunderkind Analytics team here to talk about our experience with Google's new Data Canvas. So my name is Scott Shane. I'm the VP of Data and Analytics at Wunderkind. I've been using BigQuery for about 9 years. I've been at Wonderkin even longer, excited to talk about our experience with Data Canvas today.
Hey, and I'm Rachel. I'm a director of data analytics at Wonderkin. I've been here a little over 4 years, and that's also the amount of time I've been using Looker and BigQuery as well.
So Wonderkin is a performance marketing channel that powers one-to-one messaging at unprecedented scale. We work with a lot of large brands, and we send behavioral emails and text messages on their behalf. Chances are you probably have interacted with us at some point. So the analytics team really does everything with data at Wonderkin, especially when it comes to getting value out of data. So we have a fairly large data set in BigQuery. The example that we're using today with Data Canvas is for a machine learning model that our data engineering team put out that scores purchase propensity. So before we get into Data Canvas, I want to start by showing what we have been doing today, which I'm guessing is not that dissimilar from what you've all been doing. We have our BigQuery console here, and up here we just have a bunch of tabs. And so these are various queries through our exploratory effort, and it works to a point unless you're trying to find or reference a previous query. And the side-by-side view usually helps, especially when we are trying to reference a different data set, but does get very challenging. So
for years, we've been begging the BigQuery team for a SQL-style notebook where we could organize a running string of queries, kind of like a running doc, with our thought flow as we're going through these kind of investigations or exploratory analysis to keep things a bit more organized. And what we got from Canvas is actually arguably a bit better.
Yeah. So now, rather than a linear format, kind of like a BigQuery notebook or any sort of notebook, what we have is much more of a mental map, or more of a 3D model almost, where we can very spatially iterate through queries. So let me take you through how we've been doing this. Up here on the top, we usually start with the data set. Let me just zoom in a little. So we start with the data set and a preview of that data set. And then over to the side, we might have the same exact data set, but just the schema. So again, very easy to reference. Now, if I navigate down here, I usually start off with some basic questions about the table. Again, this is a purchase propensity table. We have not built this table. This is straight out of our machine learning engineering team. And so we're just trying to get a feel for the table. And what better way to get a feel for the table than also with some visualizations. So already you could see something's maybe not quite right with the table. And I'll pass it over to Rachel to talk about what we do next.
Yeah, and so having the ability to have several different queries side by side allows really easy comparison. Again, now we'd have lots of these untitled tabs, kind of flipping back and forth, switching them between split screens, but now it's really easy to compare 2 or more even results side by side in these kind of columns in your canvas. Another thing we do a lot of is taking one query, copying it, and then just modifying it slightly. So up here we can see Scott's first query, we just took it, copied it, put it into the second one, and just filtered only on the propensity category equals highest. And then we can easily see below that from the visualizations that something might be up because this highest category only exists for a portion of the time. And we could do that again with another category and really easy compare these side by side. Another thing that we'll end up doing in these kind of exploratory analysis is reference results from one query and another query as we continue to look into the data. So here we're just grouping the data based on the propensity category in this first query on the left. And now that we see what all the possible categories are, we might then want to sort of pivot on those. So on this next query on the right, we can then take those category labels, reference them from the first query since we didn't know what they were before, and then plug them into this next query. Again, easy to see side by side.
Yep, exactly. And so already at this point, we've learned so much about this table, not just about how the data changes per day, but what the data is really saying. And so let's say we've iterated a couple more times, and eventually we've asked enough high-level questions it's time to ask some low-level questions. And so we want to start looking at data at the user level, which is always important, or the hit level. So this query is now a combination of some previous queries. All of the SQL is pretty much ripped out of previous tiles. Again, so easy to just kind of scroll over, take what you want, and scroll back. And what I'm doing is so that's left over, I'm just looking at users that show up on this table more than once. And so I end up with 4 million results, which is a little too much to eyeball, but still nice to see. And so what I can do now with these 4 million results, which I can't do so easily in the native BigQuery UI, is I can query these results. Don't think there's an easy way to query a result set. And so what you can see is it's taken this temp table over here, and I actually didn't even have to write the query. I just kind of asked it a pretty basic prompt to show me the frequency of row count. And so I can see of the users that show up more than once on this propensity model, how many of those users show up 100 times, over 100 times, or 338 times. And then again, really easy to take this result, go back up here, filter this query, and start to learn a little more about an individual user on this table. If I wanted to do this today, what I would probably do is turn this query into a CTE or a subquery. Usually the only way to do that is kind of by destroying this query in the first place, which makes it harder to reuse this query, or it would copy and paste it. So yeah, Data Canvas has really been working for us. And one last thing I want to say is we find the focus really easy. It's easy to get in the zone and be really zoomed in and focused on this query. It's also really easy to context switch because you still have this spatial awareness of all these other queries side by side. You really don't lose focus the same way that you lose focus when you switch tabs. So pass it back to Rachel to round this off.
Yep, and so lastly, the great thing about all of this is that you can save, share, and reuse the whole canvas. So again, in our current world of multiple tabs, not really easy or effective to save a ton of untitled tabs or share that and convey to a teammate the flow of your thought, how you kind of got to these like queries that are similar iterations. But here it's all laid out, and someone else could kind of pick this up, look at it, and get a sense of what you are looking into. So we really love that feature.
Yeah, so while we've been loving Data Canvas, I will admit it's no replacement for a quick and punchy query. For that, we would just come to the classic UI. But for any sort of investigation or exploratory exercise that you know is going to result in multiple queries, there really is no replacement. It saved us so much time and mental capacity. So we've been using it for a couple of months, and it's improved so much in that short amount of time. We're so excited to see the BigQuery team keep developing and innovating with this new Canvas product. So thank you, BigQuery team, and have a great time at Next, everybody.
Thank you, Scott and Rachel, for sharing how it's helping how the new experience is helping do your analytics task. Now, Tim from VO share how the AI capabilities are helping his organization and his team. So over to you, Tim.
Thank you, thank you. Home stretch, almost there. We can do this. All right, thanks everyone. By way of introduction, I am Tim Velasquez, head of analytics at VO, where I manage and develop end-to-end data products to really drive our operations and product strategy. Who is VO? VO is a micromobility provider focused on making clean transportation accessible to all. And if you've never heard of the term micromobility before, think e-bikes, e-scooters on a fleet perspective, rented in various cities. We operate in 50 different cities, and some of these different dots that you see here, New York City, some of our West Coast markets, they're just getting bigger and bigger. We have a very eclectic fleet, as you see in the top right. We have e-bikes, e-scooters, sit down, stand up, a very diverse fleet to meet diverse needs. And our general value prop is if we can meet these diverse needs, we can make a lot of riders happy and keep them coming back. And so our general our general sort of goals, the exact details of them change quarter to quarter, but they fall into 3 buckets that are seen here. We want to keep our riders happy, keep them coming back, meet their needs. We want to grow. As I said before, we want to get into more cities, get into more countries even, have a global presence, and that really means growing our fleet and growing a bigger user base. And we always want to do this as efficiently as possible and maintain our position as a profitable micromobility provider. And we can't do any of this without data. And this is where a lot of this rests on BigQuery to really extract those insights and leverage them to really meet these goals. Now, scaling challenges. We're a small and centralized team, and that kind of rings true, maybe resonates with a lot of people in this room. We're a small and mighty team, but inevitably, with all the different asks and all the things that come to us, we sometimes become a bottleneck. And I'm sure many of us have felt that before. We want to appease as many people as possible, but we still have to constantly go through this prioritization exercise to make sure that we can deliver value. But what if we can unlock the other stuff that we can't get to? What more can we do with that? Data discovery, and that kind of ties in with the other point here of nascent data modeling. We are changing our data pipelines pretty often. And so that means that changes, or rather tables that people once were using can be pulled out from underneath them to swap it for something else that's new, change the materializations to make them much more efficient in terms of the general compute costs in BigQuery. And so with all of these things, these are different aspects that really cause, if you think of us as like a basketball team, cause our defense to sort of get stretched thin. We get pulled out from our core, but we really want to be focusing on driving that impact. And these are the things that I think Data Canvas, or rather I know Data Canvas can ameliorate. I'm a New Yorker, talk is cheap, so let's hop into a demo. Just give me a second as I connect here. All right. Oops, sorry. Thank you. So I'm also going to do this semi-off script. And Mike, that was a masterclass in what you did there. So kudos to you. So as everyone has been saying so far, you can do a lot of this out of BigQuery Studio. You don't have to open up another window or another GCP service to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and open, or rather go to a table that I typically go to for rides. And we're going to investigate some of our ride activity in one of our markets. Let's go to that. So here we go. This is our fact rides table, and we're going to query that in Data Canvas. And so I think Mike went through how you would open up a brand new tab for that, but you can also go through the UI that you might be used to and kind of bring up Data Canvas from that. And so what you see up here is the main rides table that we work off of, and we want to learn something about it. Let's dive a little bit into New York. So I have a prompt that I have ready here, so I'm just going to paste it, but I'll go through that. So how many rides did New York City see in January 2024? Local time. Time zones are important, also annoying. Per day, broken out by vehicle type. Include the date and order from earliest to latest. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. It's doing its thing in the background. And you can see gives me a little bit of something that doesn't really work here, which is actually going off script. So let's do this. But let's go through the SQL query. So it is giving me the date that I typically use. This ride started on local, the vehicle type, and count star. But I typically do count distinct ride ID. And just not to give away too much information, I'm also going to inject a little bit of noise. So let's do cast 1,000 times rand as int 64 as ride count. Now let's go down here. It's grabbing from the table, but it's doing something that I've never really seen before. It seems to be grabbing some information, extra information about dim vehicles. Now again, the theme here has been putting your technical people, keeping them in the loop right? And so you can still QC a lot of this. And so I'm going to get rid of this part because I don't really care about a join. But I do care that we want to look at everything after January 1st of 2024. I am looking in January still. So yeah, everything in January. And I am looking at, I don't need this either. And so I'm going to group this. And as I said before, I wanted to order by ride started on local. So that's the ride date. We want it from earliest to latest. So I made a few edits there. But again, that gets back to, you can focus on the business problem at hand. And this gets you maybe 80% of the way there. You make a couple tweaks, and it's faster than maybe fighting the inertia of context switching. So let's go ahead and run this. And you can see I've got that. So I've got my ride date, I've got my vehicle type, Astro, bike, Cosmo, and we also have the ride count. Am I missing anything? Oh yeah, New York City. Let's run that again. Oh, no, not there. That should do it. Run it. Cool. So here's New York. Mainly Cosmos, which is our sit-down scooters, and the ride date, and some arbitrary ride count that I have in here. As you saw before, you can also visualize a lot of this by going in here, and there are a lot of presets, bar charts, pie charts, line graphs, but let's build one from scratch. So let's say, give me a bar chart. Bar chart of ride counts, and let's do something with formatting, and let's say with ride date on the x-axis and tilt the labels slightly. So it defaulted to a stacked bar chart in this particular graph. We do have ride date down here below. Looks like ride date here below. And it was able to rotate them quite a bit. So you can you can also build some general formatting into this. And so for many analysts, data scientists, engineers in here, you don't have to futz around with Seaborn and maybe some of the different settings. Remember what all those parameters are. Again, you can think about that solution at hand that you want to deliver, more so on the business impact that you want to deliver versus some of the technical details that we're used to working through. But what if we can do that a lot faster? And I think Data Canvas really gets there. There's definitely a lot more ways that we can dive into this, slice and dice this even more. As you saw from Mike's demo, you can branch off of other nodes in this particular DAG that really is a representation of your chain of thought. But I'm going to wrap up here and maybe give it back to Abhinav, and maybe we can drive a little bit more during Q&A. But thanks, everyone.
So that's a wrap. So that's BigQuery Data Canvas, ML-driven experience, reimagined DAG-like visual experience, right inside BigQuery Studio, and a lot more coming down the road with BigQuery Data Canvas. And the best part, it's not vaporware. It's something you can use right now. It's not just for the conference. You can actually go use it. So it's public preview, and it starts rolling out starting Monday to all the users in phases. So in a few weeks, everybody will have access. But if you can't wait till Monday, you can point to the barcode on top and submit a request. Within 24 hours, we'll get you access. The second one is actually a barcode if you want to be part of the community of users who are part of the Data Canvas user forum. We'll have various product updates and so on for you if you're part of the user forum. That one's only for NDA customers. So that's the user forum. And finally, if you start using and playing with it, have bugs and issues, contact us at datacanvas-feedback@google.com. I'm not sure if we have time on the stage for Q&A, but I'm happy to take questions after the show. Thank you, everybody.